Charlie had traveled a long, indirect route to Summit Terrace. He could hardly recall a time he hadn't known the name Vernon Downs, though in truth the discovery was in the not-too-distant past. "He's Olivia's favorite writer, dummy," Shelley-Ann had said that day in the Milky Way Cafe at Glendale Community College, where he and Olivia were creative writing majors. It was his second stint at GCC. He knew from his first stab after graduating from high school that even though he was pushing 30, he wasn't the oldest student on campus. That Olivia was 22 separated her and them from the student body full of teenagers who mostly behaved like they were still in high school, or the retirees taking classes as a hobby. Only Shelley-Ann could make him self-conscious of his advanced age. He ignored her, long used to Olivia's roommate as the price of Olivia's companionship. He'd met Olivia, an international student from London, the previous semester in Intro to Creative Writing. Over the prior summer, Charlie had read an interview with a writer who had a background similar to his. The writer was an army brat and had lived all over the world, and how that sense of impermanence informed his writing. Whether or not the writer was being self-deprecating, Charlie couldn't tell, but the piece spooked him a little, as the writer seemed to intimate that there was no place in the workaday world for those with such an upbringing. And so he enrolled in the creative writing class with more hope than ambition. Discovering Olivia across the conference table seemed to confirm the impression Charlie had taken away from the interview. Olivia's international status gave her an air of otherness, and Charlie perceived a kinship in the way she was both present but from somewhere else entirely. Olivia hadn't told her parents that she'd dropped out of Arizona State University the first week of the fall semester, so she could pocket the difference in tuition between ASU and GCC. If anyone could fully comprehend the narrative of his past, and more importantly overlook its irregularities, it was Olivia, who confessed that she liked the attention, which was all the encouragement Charlie needed. What began as a crush on a pretty girl with a sexy accent quickly evolved. "So what did he write?" Charlie asked, the name vaguely familiar. He glanced at Olivia as she combed through that day's goulash with her fork. "Minus numbers," Shelley-Ann answered automatically, scooping a forkful into her mouth. He looked at Olivia for help, but she was apparently absorbed in thoughts of Vernon Downs and minus numbers. More troubling than the notion of Olivia's secret admiration was the apparent truth that Shelley-Ann had been privy to the information, but not him. "You should really read it," Olivia said. "You never finished it, liar," Shelley-Ann accused. Olivia shrugged her off. "Of course I did." "You just think he's cute," Shelley-Ann said. She turned to him and he flinched. "He's in the movie for a second. He only has like one line." Olivia giggled, embarrassed. "So what?" she asked. "He wrote the book it's based on, didn't he?" "The book is nothing like the movie," Shelley-Ann snorted. "But I guess you wouldn't know that, huh?" "So what?" Olivia said again. She had never found Shelley-Ann as intimidating as he did. He wondered how long it would be until she missed him, really missed him, the way he knew he'd miss her once she was gone. A visa issue stripping her of her international student status after the spring semester. He dreaded the first time he missed the candy aroma of her perfume, her smiling, freckled face drawing near, the harrowing moment when he understood her loss in terms of his happy future thieved, stolen away back into the wilds of England. Olivia had never mentioned Vernon Downs or minus numbers as far as he could recall, and he thought for a moment that they were putting him on. He awaited the punchline, the gentle ribbing that signified that he was still an intimate and not an ignorant outsider. He wasn't sure which he preferred, Olivia having a simple infatuation with Downs, or actually admiring his writing, which, though he hadn't read anything by Downs, he was satisfied was facile and gimmicky. Hadn't he seen Downs in GQ? Serious writers didn't appear in the pages of GQ. Lunch ended with Olivia promising to meet Charlie after classes as usual. But he couldn't concentrate, distracted by the revelations about Vernon Downs. His need to be the center of Olivia's life flushed him with jealousy as he stared at the copy of Pride and Prejudice open on his desk, Professor Rudred's words droning on. He hadn't been able to read the novel beyond the first few chapters when the phrase, "It is better to know as little as possible of the defects of the person with whom you are to pass your life," upset him so that he couldn't continue, and he knew he would recall Austen's words verbatim every time he heard the book's title. The plan to write Vernon Downs and arrange a private meeting while he was in Phoenix, lunch maybe, formed before the end of class. He felt sure that Downs would agree to lunch, maybe dinner, with a couple of fans. He dogged it to the library, rounding the empty stacks of the fiction section. He browsed the multicolored spines, Danticott, Dickens, Didion, halting when he saw the prize in the hunt, and reached for those by Vernon Downs. He arranged them in a neat row in one of the study carrels, studying the covers, taking them in all at once, then focusing on the name Vernon David Downs as if trying to decode its mystery. He flipped the books over to reveal the author photo on each, and was taken aback at how young the Vernon Downs who wrote Minus Numbers was. He looks like a kid, Charlie thought, as he studied the cool pout, the tousled hair, the black and white suit. He marked his own passing resemblance to Vernon Downs and wondered if Olivia had a type. The author photo on the back cover of Scavengers, Downs' second book, was hardly recognizable. The hair a little less abundant, the lines under the eyes, a cardigan Downs hunched over on the steps of a nondescript brownstone. The studio shot on the back of The Vegetable King featured Downs in profile, his chin tipped up like an actor on a movie poster. The powerful new novel by the controversial author of Minus Numbers and Scavengers ran above the photo in bold lettering. He wondered if Downs's reticence to be photographed was simple vanity, and was surprised at how much pleasure the thought afforded. Was he jealous of Vernon Downs? The real question superseded. What did Olivia see in Vernon Downs? He would have given anything to know how Olivia first discovered Vernon Downs. What had drawn her in? The primary color book jackets? The author photo? What? The novels were seemingly about the rich and affected, a class of people he had never known Olivia to be particularly enticed by. Olivia's stories in Workshop were mostly realist, and were gently criticized for occasionally lapsing into sentimentality. Charlie read into Olivia's work and gleaned from her fiction that she was someone who prized kindness and life's small coincidences over the themes of apathy and perversion Downs seemed obsessed with. He toted the books to the bank of gray metal microfiche projectors and ordered a spate of reels from the portly, skeptical student working the front desk. A worn copy of Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance splayed on the desk. Charlie wheeled through article after article about Vernon Downs, gathering and collecting the biographical ephemera. He began to unravel the mystery, the slow calculus computing. Vernon Downs wasn't a writer in the sense that other writers referenced in Workshop were writers. Vernon Downs was as famous as the company he kept at nightclubs in New York and restaurants in L.A. named Spago and Pastis and Bossa Nova. That he was a writer was incidental to his incredible celebrity.